haven't talked about this with very many people except a few friends over beers late at night, but I figure it's getting close to Halloween and there's no better time than now. It doesn't seem real even now as I'm trying to relive the incident. I was in the Navy for 4 years and I've seen a lot of strange things out in the middle of the ocean, but never anything like what I'm about to describe. One of the commands I was stationed at was on a coastal patrol boat in the Persian Gulf. Our primary tasking, among others, was to board fishing vessels and freighters to look for weapons, contraband and narcotics. For security and privacy reasons I won't reveal the vessel, crew members or command names. One July evening in 2015, we were sailing in the northern portion of the Gulf off the coast of Iran. We received a distress call from a freighter around 2210 at night, stating that he had spotted a fishing vessel not under power, meaning it isn't being driven, and drifting in the middle of a fairly populated shipping lane. He also stated he had seen no lighting, signals, or ship's crew, which led him to believe it was abandoned. We took down the coordinates and arrived in the area a half-hour later. Finding the ship was difficult, but we were able to locate it using NVGs, night vision goggles, and radar. Upon locating the vessel, we manned up one of our boarding teams, including myself, in an effort to climb aboard and sort out the situation. We had to be cautious. It isn't unheard of for ISIS and Taliban forces to rig trap boats for us to board and then detonate them. A few sailors were killed 2 years before my deployment in the same way. We boarded safely and began our search. My team of 3 were directed to check out the lower decks, which included the crew's quarters and the engine room. We didn't find a shred of evidence that any people had even been living on board, which was extremely strange. I've boarded a lot of boats and most of the time these guys live on these things for weeks on end, and to be brutally honest, they don't smell very good and are usually pretty messy because of the lack of fresh water for bathing, cleaning, or going to the bathroom. The crew's quarters were extremely clean and eerily empty, which gave me an odd feeling that this may be an ambush of some kind. I'm not an explosive ordnance and disposal tech, but we were all trained to look for explosives, just not to disarm them. After a thorough search for any sign of explosives which came up clean, we came to the conclusion that the crew may have transferred to another vessel if this one broke down mechanically. We searched the engine room for signs of scuttling, intentional flooding, unintentional flooding, or engine failure and found no evidence of any of these. Our captain came over our headsets explaining that the only option we had based on the situation at hand was to rig the vessel for tow and haul it to the next port of call we were headed to. After securing the vessel to ours with heavy steel cable and a huge rope designed for this specific purpose, we headed on a southerly course to continue our evening patrol. It's around 0300 in the morning and I'm on night watch with 2 other guys in the pilot house of our boat. We had a roving lookout that would walk around the top deck with a rifle and scan the water and the sky for anything relevant. The lookout comes over the radio saying that he sees blue lights on and under the fishing boat we are towing. He says that he can see dark shapes moving around on the top deck as well through his night vision, and they look like people. He asks for one of us to come and look, so I walk down and sure enough I see the same thing he's seeing. Shadowy figures are walking around the deck and there are lights moving erratically around them and in the water around the boat. People are discernible through night vision. These figures look like shadows in the shape of people, almost like transparent in a way. The scene was not something I can describe as I would like. I guess you'd have to have seen it for yourself to know what I mean exactly. I ran down to the captain's quarters to tell him what we were seeing and have him come up and take a look. When he got to the aft end of the ship, and I'm not even exaggerating, right when we got there a thick fog started to roll in and almost engulfed the entire area around us. It's hot in the Gulf and the humidity does produce a natural haze on the surface of the water at times, but this fog was unlike anything I had seen. It was like a white blanket and all we could see was the starlight above and this fog closing in. We all just stood there not knowing what to say honestly, our captain included. Before long the fog had pretty much consumed the fishing boat and we lost sight of it. The tow line suddenly became extremely tight as if the fishing vessel was pulling in the opposite direction. This was dangerous because if that line snapped it could hurt someone on deck because of the material it's made out of. Our captain shouted the order to break the tow rig. Before we could set to work on rigging it, the line just fell slack and dropped into the water. The fog was so thick now that I could barely see anything 20 feet in front of me. We hauled in the tow line to find it had been severed clean through. This line is designed to haul many tons and it's extremely difficult to cut. It looked almost like it had been cut with a massive razor, it was so clean. Our captain never called in the incident and his explanation was that the boat may have had stowaways that were hiding on board and that's what we were seeing. We searched that boat from top to bottom, and I was there to witness it with my own eyes. There was nobody on board and this wasn't the work of a stowaway crew playing some prank on the US Navy. I have never believed in ghosts or the paranormal, but I don't have any other way of explaining this incident other than that. We talked about it amongst ourselves for a few weeks about the whole thing and not too long after we were notified that another patrol boat had seen something similar not far from where we had witnessed the incident. The phenomenon has become somewhat of an inside joke amongst the sailors and marines of that area and they are known as the phantom sailors of the Persian Gulf. Looking back on the situation now I still can't believe it happened. It was surreal and at the same time so vivid. Like I said, I haven't really recited this story a whole lot, save with a few friends because I know it sounds crazy. To this day I'm not entirely sure what I saw, but I know I won't forget it for the rest of my life.